I love the book fair. I began as a voyeur because when I first came to the book fair, I really had no money. But to see the things in person that I got to see, and not in some intimidating museum, but in a very intimate place where you could, they didn't mind if you stared at a drawing by William Burroughs or the rarest print by William Blake. And there's a sense of joy of sharing all of these wonderful things. So it's enriched my life. And as time went by, I was even able to buy a few things, and then bring my daughter, who shared an equal love of the book fair, which is so rewarding. I just want to say it's amazing to start out as a sort of a scruffy vagabond and now be sitting here with my daughter as an ambassador.
For me, I was a voyeur in the beginning too, and it really is. It's like walking into a museum where you can touch everything you want to see, which is astonishing. Some things that just bowled me over by their beauty and their age and their history. And I could say to the dealer, "Can you show me that?" And they would take it out and say, "Yes, absolutely." And the excitement of people in sharing what's here and wanting to, that's the whole purpose of this fair, is sharing.
I came there for the first time, I believe it was in 2012, as a visitor. I was already a dealer in manuscripts, and I was exhibiting only in Paris. And I came here every year from 2012. And all dealers are passionate by books, by manuscripts. You can feel, you can see smiles on faces every day. That's not so common in real life. And I'm exhibiting here, thanks to my friend Benoit, since 2020, I believe. And I'm really happy for that.
To work in the rare book world and to be a curator or special collections librarian or some combination of both, this is like Coachella, this is like Super Bowl, this is a big deal for us. And, so when we come here, it's all about community. There are so many, people in the field that I have deep relations with, so many booksellers that I've become so well acquainted with over the years, and they are shining lights in this field, doing amazing things, and they've become friends.
So putting together this conversation, it was really important to me to hear the perspectives of different roles within the antiquarian world and the book fair. So I wanted to just maybe have 20 people, but it was able to have these 4 people consolidated together to cover all of these incredible roles: a bookbinder, conservator, someone from a beloved New York institution, someone who was from overseas, a bookseller in the fair, scholar, an expert in manuscripts, antiquarian books, a writer, and just patrons, beloved patrons of the fair and readers. So within these 4 people, we have all of those roles covered and more. And also wanted to choose people who had connecting threads between them. So of course this is my mom. So we have a close connecting thread, and she was the first person who brought me to the book fair. So our connection isn't just between the 2 of us, it's also because she introduced me to the book fair. So I'm very thankful for that. And she's very dear friends with Julian, and also a long-term admirer and patron of his booth at the fair. And I was a bookbinder, hope to be a bookbinder again. So really wanted to make sure to have the voice of a bookbinder and conservator, because to me they're the superstars of the antiquarian world. So she is a hero, and I know that she is a fan, Jesse, as we all are, of his accomplishments and his work. And of course he comes to us from the Morgan, which is a beloved institution to all of us. And my mom and I have performed there often. We just performed there in March and performing again next Friday. So there's all these different connecting threads between us. So that just highlights the magic of the book fair and the antiquarian world. So that was my mission with having this conversation. So I'll start with you, Mama. How can the book fair have an effect on our present culture?
Well, I think in a lot of ways, just as even though our culture has changed much since I was in my 20s, the way it affected me, by seeing our heritage, our literary, scriptural, scientific, mathematic, nautical heritage in person, seeing it as objects, feeling the paper, getting a sense of the creator, getting a sense of the person who drew or wrote these words, and the sense of the passion of the binders, a passion of the people who save these precious things. Because, you know, we are in a culture now where much of our knowledge and information is collected and assimilated and studied digitally. And here we are reminded that by seeing all of this work not captured in a cloud, but each object a cloud itself. Each book, each map, each precious fragment, photograph is a cloud unto itself. And I think it's important for each generation to see that, to know that, to taste that. And all of our, I mean, it's a business, yes, there's dealers, yes, but it's more than that. These are people who have spent their life preserving, finding, rooting out in the craziest of places our precious heritage, and then sharing it. Each thing that we'll see out there in these glass cases, whether accessible or not, are seeds. And you know, these seeds can either be, you know, studied here or obtained to go out into the world. But I think our culture, every single generation needs to see their origins. They need to get a sense of where the knowledge, whether it's scriptural or scientific or imaginative, comes from, the creative source. And the closest we can get to the artist or the writer from the 16th, 17th, 19th century is seeing the work in person, seeing the notebooks, a letter. You know, a letter of Baudelaire brings us right to Baudelaire himself, much more than information stored. So, yes, I think, you know, we'll send those clouds out to the world, the physical clouds.
It's important to know about our origins and our history, but it's also important to see what we have forgotten about history. And I think as people bring their new research and their new collecting interests into the room, the fair becomes more reflective of what's happening outside those doors. I think Jesse's collecting interests are reflective of that, and many others who are starting to bring material into the room that isn't necessarily, you know, a leather-bound tome from the 16th century, but some of the more scrappy printed stuff that might have gotten lost in the 16th or 17th century or the 20th century that represented pieces of culture that weren't necessarily part of the history we thought of when we came to an antiquarian book fair and looked for history. And that's present culture now, because these are our interests. This is what we are learning and remembering and bringing back to the fore. So I would ask everybody to look at the object and think about all the people who brought that object to life, and think about the life that that object has lived up till now. You're not going to see a lot of rough, damaged objects here. That's not what comes to the armory. But sometimes hidden away in a corner, you'll see a book with a detached board, or you'll see a periodical that's just been read to death. And think about all the people who handled that and who caused that damage. And someday maybe someone will look at it and say, okay, I want to stabilize that damage so that it can move on to the next hands. Or someone might just say, maybe I'll just wrap this in a piece of paper or slip it into a bag so that I can give it to my kids. So it's all about the past and the present meeting and moving on to the future. I think that's exactly what I would ask people to think about when they come to the fair.
How do you decide what to bring with you, and what excites you about sharing your collection at the book fair?
That's a perfect question. My business is quite simple in real, because I'm just dealing with things I love. So to answer your question, what should I bring to the US? Things I love. And if I love it, I believe that someone else could love it too. So,
like me.
You can find so many places where past could meet the present to build the future. And I want to tell you a very short story. It was last year. I was displaying a photograph of Albert Camus, a French novelist, very famous in France. And a young kid arrived, maybe 15 years old, and he said to me, oh my gosh, it's Albert Camus. And first of all, I was really surprised that an American teenager knew Albert Camus. So I was already glad. And his dad arrived, and he said to him, I can't remember his first name, I'm so sorry, but he said to him, do you like the photograph? Oh, Dad, that's so amazing. The photograph is so beautiful. And Dad said to his son, okay, son, it's yours. I buy it. It was just a small amount of money. And I saw the kid crying. And he said to me, Julian, it's probably one of the most beautiful days of my life. And there's just one thing he didn't know at that time, so it was probably one of the best days of my life. to see an American teenager being fascinated by a French novelist I love, and to see, he was 15, and I believe he will love French culture, novels for the rest of his life, so that's good news for the future.
One important aspect I would really want to press on is that, to me, it seems to me that our interaction with digital textuality is very physical. And it's because of our relationship to time, because of the present nature of it, the fact that we're in it now, it kind of puts up a wall between the materiality of digital text and the language that we use to describe it, language like the cloud, also puts a wall between the very tactile and physicality of digital content. So it's written on hard drives. The information is stored in servers, which are very physical, in physical places. They affect the environment, they affect our lives ergonomically when we interact with them. I've watched my kids play a game called, not a game, but it's a metaverse called Roblox. They're very physically engaged in that with their fingers. I've tried to do the obstacle courses with them called abis. I'm terrible at them. They're whizzes because of the way that their sort of tactile proficiency and the haptics of digital technology. And I think that the further we get removed away from this as the current sort of dominant textual paradigm, the more that we will see the physicality of it, the more that we'll understand the physicality of it, and that it is rooted in a time and a place. And we'll also understand that there's so much involved in the production of digital content, so many systems of labor involved, from coders to shippers and manufacturers and people mining the rare earth elements to get into the microchip. All of this is so physical, and all of this is very important. So I think it's the ethereal nature of the way that we describe it that kind of removes us from it, and also the fact that we're in it now. Something like Dragon Ball Z, has origins in 16th century story, Journey to the West, right? And a lot of people aren't aware of that, right? And there's so many connections like that, right? There's a viral meme right now of the Oompa Loompa song, right? And it's true. My kids sing it all the time. It's a new version of it, not the one that probably we were familiar with from the Gene Wilder version, but there's a new version that just came out, a new song, and they're not aware of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory being a printed book, right, in its origins. So I think bridging those worlds and helping to bring some context to an increasingly decontextualized information environment gives us a lot of potential there. Another, I think, way to do more with youth outreach is to tap into the very, very vibrant energy around fan culture. And there's just a lot of excitement around there. It's not just a social media thing. People are hungry for in-person experiences that speak to that fan culture. And there's some passionate fan communities out there that have some of which have been around for a while, like the Janeites, the Sherlockians. They're already deep in it, deep in their own fan culture. So if there were a way that the book fair can maybe have, pop-ups of different fan culture-based displays where vendors are, sort of donating one or two of their items in those holdings to kind of theme around a particular figure that has a lot of energy or a huge fan base, I think that would create a lot of buzz. I'm not afraid of gimmicks. I think I think gimmicks do help with the marketing aspect, and when we market positively and bring new people in the room, then they can be groomed to become more serious collectors over time. It's really beautiful to see the way that the culture moves forward. I don't see this as sort of oppositional, right? The digital sphere and elements of print culture, just like I don't see print culture being in opposition to orality or cultures of script, all of which still exist today, right? I see us in sort of a symbiotic environment where one modality rises in ascendancy and becomes sort of the dominant paradigm, and the others still exist, but in conversation, right? And I think it's centering those conversations to bring people into the awareness of things like the Starbucks logo having a connection to, an early modern representation of Melusina is where the greatest potential lies to maintain its cultural relevance.
I really liked what Jesse was saying. It gave me a little comfort too, but I thought he also was touching on the fact that, there is, in terms of, we have, a 13th century map, but there could be a 21st century artifact or a certain book or a certain, a special manuscript of the things that are happening now, of the history of the greatest video games or Magna or the culture that is existing now, not to trample what we have, but to integrate things that more and more future generations or present generations will find interesting to them, but also to let them know that they can somehow let them know that they are welcome. They are welcome, and you're going to see things. I mean, I saw things even this morning before, like the manuscript or the some manifesto of the Diggers. There's William Blake and the Diggers. There's you know, the beats. There's some obscure poets that I never heard of. There was my friends who have departed. I saw so many of my friends in there, you know, whether it's Tom Verlaine or Jim Carroll or, you know, Allen Ginsberg, there's so much of our, not just an ancient history, but our recent history, things that make us who we are. You know, the poets and the new generation poets, they have a lot to thank, a lot to, you know, to salute the poets such as Allen Ginsberg and Gregory Corso, and their manuscripts are here. There's touchstones. I'd like to somehow, in, you know, however it's promoted, give people a window to how they can connect and what's exciting here. And, you know, just like myself, when I was young, I was intimidated to come here, just like intimidated to go to the opera. But, you know, someone brought me. I can't remember how I first came, but then, you know, it was a welcoming world. No one's making you feel self-conscious if you can't afford that J.D. Salinger letter, but they'll let you look at it, let you look at that Sylvia Plath broadside, and it's awesome. So I just somehow to let, you know, new generations know that this is a friendly place. It's a place to be respected, but a friendly place.
So I just want to read a little quote. It is from our friend Robert Byler. He is a senior photographer at Digitization Services Department at Berkeley Library, and he wrote me this message yesterday that I just thought was so nice, so I thought I just want to read it. It's very short. As someone who has photographed rare books and manuscripts for over 30 years, I truly believe they possess a lot of the energy of the writers and previous owners. You already know all of this. There's just so many magical things associated with rare books, manuscripts, and photographs. We live through them, and we live with them. So thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you so much to these four brilliant, amazing people. Please visit Julian's booth.
you.